All right, hello, and welcome. Thanks so much for joining us today for our pre-arrival webinar focusing on campus safety. My name is Grace Fuller. I serve as the Manager of International Student Experience and Engagement at the International Students and Programs Office. And I'll go ahead and hand it over to my colleagues to introduce themselves.
I guess I'll go first. I'm Sheldon King. I work with the police department. I've been here 15 years. Just looking forward to hopefully meeting you all someday.
Hi, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. I'm John Carlos Sr. I'm the Director at Student Legal Services. My pronouns are he, him, and his. Looking forward to today's talk.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Jessica Heredia, and I use she, her pronouns, and I am the Assistant Director of Care at the Sexual Assault Resource Center. Happy to be with you all.
Great, so as you can see, we have a number of colleagues from across campus gathered here today, so we're really lucky. Thank you for joining us, and we hope that that will serve as useful to get as many questions as we can answered today. A little bit of housekeeping before we begin. So you are currently in listen-only mode, which means you can hear us, but we cannot hear you. So we encourage you to submit your questions via the Q&A feature at the bottom of your Zoom menu bar. This will be the primary way you submit your questions. We have disabled chat for today's webinar, so we might drop links there, but you won't be able to communicate with us. So again, please use that Q&A feature. And if for some reason we don't get to your question during today's webinar, we also encourage you to reach out to our office at icontact.ucsd.edu. And finally, we are recording, so you'll be able to view this webinar recording at iwebinars.ucsd.edu. And we typically ask for a 2-week window between when we launch the webinar live and then when it's posted on our website. All right, yes, this is a friendly reminder that this is kind of what that Q&A feature will look like. This is how you'll submit your questions. You can go ahead and submit your questions throughout the presentation. So if you have a question, like a follow-up question to a slide, feel free at any point during the presentation to go ahead and submit that via the Q&A feature. But I will say that we probably won't get to that question until the end of today's presentation when we do a live question and answer session. So know that we'll see it. We might be able to type out a reply, but we'll dedicate a good portion at the end for a live question and answer. All right, here is an agenda of kind of what we'll cover today. So we have some friendly reminders from the International Students and Programs Office, also referred to as ISPO. We'll have a brief presentation from the University of California, San Diego Police Department, Student Legal Services, Care at the Sexual Assault Resource Center, some reminders from Student Financial Solutions. And then, like I said, we'll dedicate the end of today for question and answer because we know that you all have a number of questions. All right, so just some friendly reminders from ISPO. So as many of you know, you can already start requesting your visa immigration documents from ISPO. inewstudent.ucsd.edu is a really useful website specifically designed for newly admitted international students. Here you can find important information about not only requesting your immigration documents, but also preparing for your arrival when the time comes. It's very likely that if you have questions about how to request your immigration documents, you'll be able to find those answers here. We also have a new feature on our website where you can ask Triton. So that is our AI chatbot, and it's typically at the bottom right-hand corner of our screen. So that's a really helpful resource too. Sometimes if you don't know where to begin, you can go ahead and type a keyword into that chatbot, and that will get you started. So I encourage you to give it a try. And with that, I will turn it over to my colleague, Corporal Sheldon King, to talk about the University of California, San Diego Police Department.
Well, once again, welcome and thank you for having me here, Grace. You go to the next slide. Yeah, so I know you all are going to be working remotely, but there are some things that we want to warn you about prior to coming to the U.S. And again, welcome to the land of the free. Next slide, please. But one thing, America is really not that free. All right, there are a few laws you must follow once you get to the states. We have our federal laws that cover all 50 states. We have our state laws. You go ahead, Grace. We have our state laws that cover the state of California, mainly the penal code and vehicle codes, which is most likely what the UCSD Police Department deals with. And we also have our county codes for San Diego County only. And then we have our UCSD codes just for the campus. All right, so you go to the next slide, please. Scams. So one issue that we have on campus that is huge involves scams. A lot of our international students get scammed when they come to the US. There are people out there who target our international students. So at the police department, we present this just to make sure you have a heads up of what these scammers can do to you. Go ahead, Grace. So just for a quick second, think about how much the largest loss would have been to a UCSD student in 2020. You go ahead, Grace. All right, $322,000. That's the largest loss that we've taken here at our police department. If you don't know how much that is, the next slide will show the, one more time, currency. And it's a ton of money, you know, and I felt sorry for our student and her family, but they lost 322,000 American dollars. Next slide. They use various tactics to get the money out of you. Some involve sales. Believe it or not, some people will pretend to be a king and queen or prince from another country and present themselves that way, offering money for you to send them money now in return for a larger sum later. Credit card fraud, a big one is threats of arrest. Usually to our Chinese international students, someone from their home country will call threatening their visa and they would get scammed out of money. And that was partially how that $322,000 was lost. So we just want you to be careful when you're being threatened. All right, they have threats of holding your diploma, threats to visa, offer to pay your tuition, and third-party payments, and random emails or texts. So they ask you to click a link to get information off of your phone or wherever you're from. Next slide, please. So immediate red flags. So if you hear Bitcoin, prepaid card, Apple Pay, or click on this link, those should be automatic red flags when someone is contacting you or asking you to pay a bill in either one of these forms. Next slide, please. So what we don't want you to do is do not give out any of your personal information, because anyone could be anyone on the internet. All right, do not send nude photos of yourself. Students have been scammed out of that. They'll meet someone online, they're pretending to be someone else, and they would send them pictures of themselves and are later extorted for the money. All right. Do not meet with anyone you have never met or you do not know personally. All right, don't send money to anyone you have never met or have it twice, excuse me. So they'll extort you for money and not care. You know, they don't care about your feelings. They don't care how much money you have. They'll just try to get every dime out of you. All right, next slide, please. And one more time. So beware of who you're talking to on the internet. You know, a lot of our male students, for some reason, they'll fall for this and they'll be talking to someone who looks like one of these few people on the screen. Next slide, please. But I could show you exactly who you'll be talking to if contact them. If you haven't got it, that's me, all right? Pretend it's me on the other side, all right? You never know who's on the other side of the internet. So just be careful. The whole point of this is be careful with who you're talking to on the internet. It could be anyone. Next slide, please. So scams using government agencies. Students have lost thousands of dollars believing that the United States of America, federal government, are gonna come and arrest them, okay? The US government, we don't take payments in Bitcoin or gift cards. The government usually, 90% of the time, they will send you a letter. Occasionally they'll call you on your phone, but it's very rare. And they will never ask you for money over the phone. It either be through letter and sometimes email, but mainly through a physical letter. Next slide, please. All right, sorry about the small font, but stolen identity is also an issue. Here are a few clues that someone has stolen your identity. You'll have unexpected withdrawals from your bank. You do not get your bills or other mail. Merchants refuse your checks when you start having bounced checks. Debt collectors call you about debts that aren't yours. You find unfamiliar accounts on your credit report, and the IRS notifies you that more than one tax return was filed. So next slide, please. All right, these are different ways to protect yourself. I won't go through all of them, but if you're being threatened, call the police department or contact your consulate. All right, those are the best ways to at least protect yourself if you feel threatened or if someone is threatening you with arrest. All right, next slide, please. So if you're a victim, so one thing we ask you to do, or a few things we ask you to do, are lock down your problem accounts, lock them up until everything gets handled, sign up for credit monitoring service, review your credit card bank statements for unauthorized charges, review your credit reports for unauthorized accounts, file a police report with your local police department. And we also have the Federal Trade Commission. So when our students get scammed by by individuals who are overseas, that's the phone number that you should call. You know, sometimes students come to us telling us that they've sent money to the Philippines or different countries, and they have an issue getting that investigated due to it being an international crime. So that's the number. And we'll try to put it up for you later if we have time. All right, next slide, please. All right, here's the contact to the police department, contact information. If you have any questions outside of this, my email is at the bottom, smking@ucsd.edu. And this will also be at the end of the presentation as well, the last slide. And thank you, and enjoy your time at UCSD.
Okay, I guess I'm next. Hi again, everybody. John Carlos, Senior, Student Legal Services. So just briefly, Student Legal Services provides free, confidential counseling, education, and referrals to all currently registered UCSD students. So what that means is, as long as you are students, you have 2 free lawyers to come talk to you about any and all legal issues, questions, or problems. So let's say that you find that you think that somebody is trying to scam you for money. Let's say that you are living off campus and your landlord tries to take your money or keep your money. Let's say you get a ticket and you have to deal with Corporal King. I hope you don't. But if you do, if you have any issues, questions, or problems whatsoever, you can talk to Student Legal Services. As I said, it's totally free. It comes with you paying for being in school, and it's totally confidential, as we're not allowed to tell anybody anything. I think it's important to note that, you know, this is about campus safety, and the first thing, really, and the main thing that we're talking about is scams. So hopefully that tells you a little bit, which is that number one. The good news is that for the most part, the UCSD campus and the UCSD community is relatively safe in terms of physical violence, in terms of campus safety and moving around campus. But it's also, of course, important for you to be vigilant, to be wary, to make sure. Of where you are at all times and your surroundings. But as I said, the good news is that, you know, really, I think the biggest sort of issue that I think a lot of us see is with respect to scams and people trying to take your money. So if you could please go to the next slide. I'm also going to be talking about this a little bit so that you're aware. And so that we really so that I really emphasize the significance of being careful for these sorts of things. But I also want to talk a little bit about insurance, because of course, insurance issues are different in every country. and certainly in the United States, and a little bit about off-campus housing, because that's actually the single biggest issue that we see at Student Legal Services. So next slide, please. So in terms of the scams, I think Corporal King did a great job of summarizing, most of the important information. I do want to sort of mention a couple that I see particularly frequently. A lot of the ones that we hear about in my office, they involve, somebody will contact you, and it could be somebody even through one of the official UCSD websites. So it could be the off-campus housing website. It could be the career services / handshake website. But somebody will, want to hire you, or will have a deal for you, and they'll suggest that they'll send you a fake check that's a lot more money than whatever it is that than it should be. I see this also, by the way, with purchases like on websites like eBay or other online merchandise websites. So they'll tell you that they're going to send you a check that's more money than whatever it is that you're going to agree to, and then they're going to ask you while you're waiting to receive the check to send an actual electronic money transfer to them, and then it's only after, and so that the transfer will occur. And it's only after the student receives the fake check and tries to deposit it that they realize that the check is not valid. So never fall for those. Be really careful about those. A lot of times during tax time, but really throughout the year, you'll get phone calls. I get them on my cell phone. There'll be pre-recorded phone calls a lot. Sometimes there'll be live messages in English as well as in other languages, saying that it's Social Security, saying that it's the U.S. Marshal's Office in Texas, saying it's the IRS, so that's the Federal Tax Service in the United States. Maybe it'll say they're from Homeland Security or ICE or Customs. Any calls, any emails from really anybody claiming to be any sort of federal agency is absolutely going to be fake. They only send letters in the mail. The government's not going to call you. If you have any questions, feel free to get in touch with Student Legal Services. As I said, we're totally confidential. So if somebody is saying, hey, we know that you're involved in some scam back in your home country, and you need to contact us, and don't tell anybody else that you've contacted us, or we're going to arrest you, or we're going to report you, things like that. Absolutely reach out to us before you send any money, before you provide any personal information. Do some research. As I said, a common scam is renting, including on our official UCSD website, where they will ask you to send a security deposit, but they won't give you specifics in terms of providing you the very address, apartment number at an apartment complex. I really suggest that you do not send any money for a security deposit to a landlord until you've seen the keys, until you've seen the place, until you know that it's valid. It's really easy for me to say, I'm here in San Diego, and I'm sure it's really hard to do if you're abroad, but I absolutely would not do that until I verified that you're getting what you're paying for. I'll see it, as I said, with jobs. Somebody will say, hey, I got a job for you. And of course, if you have an F1 visa, you have to be careful about that anyways. You're not allowed to, of course, be employed except under certain conditions. Anything involving prepaid cards, anything involving iTunes gift cards, it's definitely a scam. Fake merchandise, unfortunately, is something that we'll also see, again, through some, maybe an online merchant. Be careful about these sorts of things. It happens a lot. Don't send any money without seeing the merchandise, without getting the keys to the apartment, that sort of thing. Next slide, please. So hopefully we've talked enough about scams and scared you enough about that. Be really, really careful. In terms of insurance, a couple things to consider. So of course, insurance you'll get insurance, whether that's health insurance or other types of insurance. They're great to have, but you need to be you need to consider what insurance covers and what it does not. One of the things that I've seen with international students is that sometimes they'll say go to see a dentist or a doctor, and maybe they'll have the student health insurance ship, which is the insurance is fine, but understand that insurance is one thing and healthcare is another. And unfortunately, it doesn't mean the same thing. And because because of our healthcare system in the United States, you need to keep in mind that maybe what a doctor or nurse or dentist says in terms of what your insurance is going to cover, it might not be the case. So you always have to check with your insurance company before, for example, you do anything that maybe your doctor or your dentist recommends. One that I've seen several times is dentists will suggest cosmetic dental work like Invisalign or other types of dentistry. Check with your insurance to see what's covered. Not a scam, but I found that some students will get giant bills and will only find afterwards that their insurance does not cover them. Get the best renter's insurance. If you're going to live off campus, get the best renter's insurance that you can afford. A lot of off-campus landlords recommend certain types of insurance. Some will even require you to get it. Get the best one you can afford. It might even be better. Hopefully, it'll be better than what the landlord requires. Make sure you get insurance. More than anything, there's a list here of basically 5 types of renters insurance. To me, the most important one is the flood insurance, and that specifically is insurance in case there's a plumbing issue at the apartment next door or upstairs. We've unfortunately had students who've got, again, giant bills and found out only after the fact that their insurance didn't cover them for damage. If you're going to drive, number one, you're going to need to get a license to drive. And number two, in order to have a license, in order to drive, you have to get insurance. The best, again, it's the same rule, the best insurance you can get is what I would recommend. Liability insurance is not enough. That's basically insurance that covers you in case there's an accident and it's your fault as the driver. That's not enough. You want to get the best that you can in terms of more comprehensive coverage. I drafted sort of an introduction to California and U.S. law. It's on my it's on the website there. Sorry for that really long URL there, but I definitely recommend that you review it before, if you have any questions, and maybe before you get here, so that you can familiarize yourself with the laws in California and the United States. Next slide, please. And then again, in terms of living off campus, the good news of UC San Diego is really good when it comes to security deposits and when it comes to rental insurance issues. It's really off campus that you need to be careful. Keep in mind that if you're going to live off campus and you have roommates, those roommates and you are all going to be jointly and severally liable. That's a fancy way of basically saying that each person that signs up to be a renter for a property is going to be can be held responsible for up to 100% of the obligations of the lease. So in other words, what that means is if you live with a roommate and the next month's rent comes due, and you pay your share of next month's rent, but your roommate does not pay their share, the landlord not only has the right to legally try to get money out of your roommate and to try to kick your roommate out, to evict your roommate, but they can do that against you as well. So even if you're following the rules and paying your rent, you can be held responsible. So so it's really important for you to know who your roommates are. And so that's why before you live with them. So that's why I recommend again another recommendation that you check out our website at Student Legal Services, sls.ucsd.edu. If you go to the very bottom, you'll see a hyperlink to sample forms and agreements. You'll see there's a roommate agreement there. I really suggest that you look at it. Even if you don't use one, I'd suggest that you do use one, but even if you don't, at least review it with the people that you're going to live with so that you all know that you are trustworthy and that you know that they're going to take seriously their obligations under the lease. Okay, and then the single biggest issue we see is security deposits. So protect your security deposit. Take pictures of the place before you move in. Do the same before you move out. Do a walkthrough inspection, and do everything you can to document the condition of the place. I'm probably running out of time. The last couple things I'll suggest is one of the things that the corporal pointed out at the beginning of his slides was there are different laws in the United States, so federally, than there are in California. So for example, marijuana. Marijuana is legal under certain circumstances under California law, but it's still illegal under federal law. So if you get caught with any sorts of charges involving marijuana, you can absolutely lose your visa. And by the way, you have to be really careful about drinking and driving, DUIs. Do not drink and drive here. You can lose your visa almost immediately under those circumstances. And I have to say it, and with all due respect to my colleague in the police department, but if you do find yourself in a situation where you might be facing some sort of criminal charges, don't say anything, okay? You have the right to remain silent, as we say in the United States. Use it. So be really mindful of that. If you find yourself being contacted by the police for something you did, I really recommend that you reach out to Student Legal Services before you say too much, because anything you say can and will be used against you. So yeah, next slide, please. Hopefully I've addressed a lot of the things that you're wondering about in terms of scams and in terms of protecting yourself. But there's my contact information. If you want to talk to Student Legal Services, feel free to call our office to schedule a time to speak. I think I'm going to stop now, but I'll hang around in case there are any questions. And thanks so much and welcome.
Hello, everybody. Once again, my name is Jessica Heredia, and I'm the Assistant Director for Care at SARC. That's the acronym that you'll often hear our office referred to. So just a quick overview. We are another free and confidential resource here on campus for students, staff, and faculty who are impacted by sexual assault, relationship violence, and stalking. So today I'm just going to do a quick overview of some of our services and give you some general safety tips while you interact online. You can have the next slide, Grace. So here's a bit about our support services. So we are available 24/7. Even if you are abroad and you are taking classes remotely, you can access our services. So that's an important note for you all to be aware of. We're confidential. We have advocates who are certified in the state of California to provide privileged and confidential support to survivors of sexual assault and relationship violence. We are available after hours, on holidays, and on weekends. We also assist with reporting options. So we do not accept reports like the police department or the Title IX office, which is the administrative office. Instead, we help explain those options to you, and we can assist you if that's something you choose to do. We can also provide transportation, and we can accompany survivors and victims if they choose to make a report to the police department, if they need to go to court for anything related to these issues, or if they want to report to the administration. We assist with urgent needs for victims. So often when a sexual assault happens or there's dating or domestic violence situations, that impacts academics, housing, financial aid, sometimes employment. And so we are the go-to resource if you need some accommodations with any of those particular areas. So we often are working with victims to contact deans only with their permission, to contact financial aid to help find solutions and resources so that they can continue their studies here at UC San Diego. For our international students, sometimes we're working with the International Center to really navigate some of the visa issues if those are coming up. But once again, we will only do that with the consent of the victim that we're working with. We also do ongoing individual crisis counseling, and we provide support groups throughout the year. Our services, a quick note, are really only for victims of sexual assault, relationship violence, and stalking. If somebody's been accused of any of those particular types of crimes, there are other resources on campus, including CAPS, Counseling and Psychological Services, and Student Legal is also a resource for anybody involved in these types of incidents. Next slide, please. In addition to our support services, we also provide education and training for the entire campus community. So when you, if you are a new student and you have your summer orientation program, if we were in person, you would have an in-person orientation presentation provided by your orientation leaders that we would lead. Due to COVID-19, we have a virtual orientation program, and that's going to be a presentation by one of our staffs via video. But typically every year we would do something at orientation to talk about safety tips, how to understand consent, what are healthy relationship behaviors, and also how to be a responsive bystander when you see something that is concerning or unsafe. We have peer education programs. So we hire students and we have volunteers who actually go out onto campus and do a lot of programs and events to educate the community. We have large scale programs throughout the year for national awareness months, including October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, January is Stalking Awareness Month, and April is Sexual Assault Awareness Month, and we do programming throughout the year. If you are involved in any student organization, you can contact our office and we will do a workshop or training for you. We also train staff on campus who may receive disclosures from students who are impacted by these issues. So we will train student health providers, the police department, counseling and psychological services, academic advisors on how to refer over to our office to make sure that you have the best support possible if something happens. One last quick note about our services is that if you have a friend who is impacted by any of these issues, you can also come and see us. We are often providing advice and guidance to friends who don't know how to support someone that they care about and someone they love who's been impacted by these issues. So we encourage you to seek us out. Next slide. Right now, because of COVID-19, we're seeing many more crimes happen on the internet that involve interpersonal violence. So sharing information over the internet, specifically through dating apps or chat sites, and then arranging meetups in person is where we've seen more of the sexual assaults happen this year. What we're asking folks to do is arrange safe public locations if you are going to meet somebody. Never share identifying information over the internet if you're going to stay at a distance. Try to use aliases to stay safe if you are exchanging any private kind of photos. We also encourage people to avoid putting their faces in any photos that they may be sharing with people they have never met in person. We've seen a lot of extortion and blackmail when photos have been shared this year. So that's something that we're trying to make sure that the population knows and understand. Use camera covers. So if you have laptops and you have video monitors, please make sure you're covering those when you're not using them. That's a really important part of just cyber safety, especially now. Because like my colleagues were saying, links are being sent to people and those are putting viruses into the computers that are accessing cameras, and we need to make sure people are not being recorded when they don't know. Using unique passwords for all of your different platforms and never sharing passwords, even with your partners. Where we tend to see some abuse happen through the internet in existing relationships is when private information about banking, about class registration, specifically passwords, is shared with a partner. And if that is an unhealthy or abusive relationship, then what we see is some financial abuse and academic abuse take place. I also want to talk about Zoom account settings. If you don't have a neutral background and you have anything behind you that could potentially identify where you are, please use a virtual background or try to neutralize your background as much as possible. Your location is really important to keep private, especially during this day and age. So that's one strategy that we've pushed forth. And lastly, it's on everybody to ask for consent, whether you're engaging in person or online. You should never be recording a meeting, a conversation without the consent of all the parties participating. And if somebody is not wanting to give consent, then that needs to be respected in every single encounter. Next slide. So right now, during COVID-19, our office is operating remotely, but we are providing video appointments and phone appointments. You are able to access our services once you are accepted to UC San Diego. So if you need support, you're accepted and you register for courses, then you can begin seeking services. So many times we have students start accessing our services in the summer once they have their ID and their first round of classes they're enrolled in. We will do video and phone appointments to accommodate different time zones. Our advocates will work with you to figure out the best possible way to meet. We have a specific email address that you can request an appointment. We ask that you do not share a lot of information about the incident in this email. It's just for scheduling purposes. So that careadvocate@ucsd.edu is a place where you can go to connect with us. You can also call 858-534-5793. And one of our intake counselors will take down your information, gather any additional information that you're willing to provide about what you're going through and what you need, and then share that with our advocates and we'll go from there. We also are doing virtual accompaniment. So if you choose to report to the police department or to Title IX, we will set up a Zoom meeting to meet with them and assist you in that process. And lastly, all of our educational programs are happening virtually right now. And to request those, you can go to our website, care.ucsd.edu. Next slide. Here's our contact information. One of the best places to find out about our educational initiatives and what we're doing is our social media. So please find us on Instagram at UCSD Care. We also do a lot of Instagram live programs where you can engage with our staff about a variety of topics. We also have our contact information. Care Advocate, once again, is for scheduling appointments. Care Info is for general inquiries. But I will say, as students make their way back to campus, we will be opening up sometime in the fall and be available for some limited services in the fall in person. But please email, call ahead, because we're pretty busy, and it's important that we are able to make time for you and give you the best support possible. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jessica. All right, so on behalf of Student Financial Solutions and our colleagues over there, I'm going to go ahead and share some important information with you all. So like my colleagues have mentioned, there has been an increase in online scams, which target university students by promising a reduction in tuition if a third-party service is used to pay their fees. International students have been targeted more frequently, and scammers have especially targeted students using the popular app WeChat. Scammers will often promise an approximate 5% discount in tuition, and victims are asked to provide their university credentials and their credit card information. So the best way to protect yourself from these scams is to never share your online credentials with anyone. You should only use payment methods approved by UC San Diego, and advise parents and authorized payers to not respond to any third-party solicitations. So Student Financial Solutions is typically how most of our students pay their fees. And so they're really relevant when it comes to paying your fees and knowing that these are approved. Student Financial Solutions will offer approved payment methods and will help you if you are getting solicited by like a third-party payer. You can always refer to Student Financial Solutions or Student Legal Services to see if you might be vulnerable to being scammed. So here are some important things listed on the slide, and we encourage you, actually Student Financial Solutions will join us on May 20th to talk about specifically your student account, paying your fees, international payment options, and how to avoid scams. So we encourage you to sign up for that webinar again on May 20th at iwebinars.ucsd.edu. But here is also their contact information. So if you would like to contact them in the meantime, you're more than welcome to using this contact information on the slide. All right, so we covered a lot of good ground today, but I do want to refer some opportunities for our students to get involved. So you can already start getting involved and start building your community at UC San Diego. So I'm gonna go ahead and highlight some of those options now. So if you are a graduate student, we encourage you to sign up for our Grad Pals program. So Grad Pals is a peer mentoring program that matches incoming graduate students with current graduate students at UC San Diego. And as much as possible, we try to match students within their same department. So the program aims at helping new students settle in by giving them opportunities to ask non-academic questions, provide them with support, and ease their transition to graduate life at UC San Diego. If you're interested in Grad Pals, then we encourage you to sign up at tinyurl.com/gradpals21. If you are an undergraduate student, then we have a similar peer mentorship program, Global Ambassador Program, often referred to as GAP. And GAP is specifically over the summer. So it's a summer mentorship program that, again, is aimed at making a smooth transition for our incoming international and out-of-state undergraduate students into university life. So you will be matched with a current undergraduate, international, or out-of-state student. And based on the sign-up form, you will indicate how you prefer to be matched with your mentor. So some students prefer to be matched with a mentor within the same college. Some students prefer to be matched with a mentor that shares the same major. And some students prefer to be matched with a mentor that is coming from the same home country or region. So I'll go ahead and in a moment, I'll put the sign-up form for the Global Ambassador Program, but that is a great resource that we encourage you to check out. All right, so additionally for undergraduate students, GAP was a summer-long peer mentorship program, but international peer coaching is for your entire first year at UC San Diego. So it's a really incredible resource. So you have different the international peer coaches are international students themselves, and they assist students through peer coaching as they transition. You can learn more about the program itself at ipeercoaching.ucsd.edu. All right, so each of the international peer coaches are assigned to work with international first-year students in each of the 7 colleges. They will often send weekly emails to their students that are geared towards helping them prepare and help the students transition to UC San Diego. International peer coaches are also available for one-to-one peer coaching appointments, currently through Zoom, but hopefully in the future face-to-face. And international peer coaches create an online community through Microsoft Teams and Discord channels to connect international students to one another. If you'd like to learn more about the International Peer Coaching Program, you'll find that many of our offices do have a social media presence. So you can follow UCSD_international peer coaching on Instagram to find out about different events and ways to learn more about the program. And then finally, if you're interested in joining the program, you can also scan this QR code on your screen or fill out the interest form at bit.ly/IPCPP2122. Okay, and this is the last thing that I'll highlight. So actually our international peer coaches are hosting regional meetups right now for incoming students. So if you want to start to get to know people at UC San Diego, you're interested in either meeting people from your same home region or meeting people from other regions, you are invited to attend these regional meetups. You can find out more about specific regional meetups, dates, and times, as well as what region it's highlighting at ievents.ucsd.edu. And just a quick note, that link is actually our iEvents calendar. So that is a live calendar that is auto-populated with different events around campus that feature a global community. And so this is a great way if you're ever kind of wondering like, oh, what should I do? Or, oh, how can I get more involved? iEvents is a great way to find out more about some of those opportunities. Okay, so a few friendly reminders before we get to our live question and answer. So here are some upcoming pre-arrival webinars. So on May 13th, later this week, we'll have a webinar focusing on student life for graduate students. And on May 18th, we'll have a similar webinar focusing on student life, but for undergraduate students. Like I said, on May 20th, we'll have our colleagues from Student Financial Solutions talk about student finances, paying fees, and student accountants paying fees and finances. And then on June 2nd, we'll have a webinar dedicated to travel and immigration updates. So like I said, iwebinars.ucsd.edu is a great resource because it is both where you can sign up for upcoming pre-arrival webinars, as well as view previous pre-arrival webinar recordings. So this is a great link that we like to recommend. Yes, and I mentioned this earlier, but we do have a new Ask Triton chatbot feature on our website. So in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen, you can see this Ask Triton chatbot. And this is a great way that if you sometimes don't know where to begin, or you're like, I don't even know what my question is, but I know I'm confused. The chatbot is a great way to start getting to know more information about that. Okay, and then we are also on Instagram as well and on social media. So our handle is @ispo.ucsd, and we're actually really excited. We created this Instagram AR filter to celebrate our newly admitted international students, such as yourself. And so we are so excited to have you join us at UC San Diego. We encourage you to try out the filter. It's super fun. There are 3 different filters that you can try. And if you post and tag us on Instagram, we will be sure to repost you to celebrate. So we look forward to connecting you over social media. Okay, and now we are at the end of our presentation today. So we are going to dedicate the rest of our session to live question and answer. So I know that we've already received quite a few questions through the Q&A. So thank you so much for those of you who have submitted those questions. And we'll go ahead and highlight some of those here. So I'm seeing some good questions, but I can see that my colleagues have already typed out some answers via the presentation, which is great. And I'd love to kind of hand it over to my colleagues to see, are there any questions that have come through the Q&A that maybe you answered via text, but you'd like to verbally highlight for the benefit of the larger audience?
Hi, everybody. John Carlos, Student Legal Services. I did see a good number of questions just about renters insurance, whether you should get renters insurance if you're going to live on campus. I would definitely suggest that yes, you do that. UCSD doesn't provide renters insurance for folks living on campus, but they do have a company that they recommend. I think it's called GradGuard. I don't know much about them. You don't have to use them, but again, I would just definitely recommend that you get some sort of insurance to cover your personal property, to cover in case of any flood, for mold, and also particularly if you live off campus, for loss of use. There are lots of good questions about I-20s that unfortunately I can't answer, but I'll stick around in case there are any others that I think I might be able to provide some information about.
Sheldon, I'm wondering, there was a question that came through the Q&A that I thought was a good question. And I'm wondering if you can speak to a little bit more why UC San Diego has its own police department.
Yes, that was a good question. Well, the university is it's a huge university, 50,000 to 70,000 people, and unfortunately, things happen. And rather than the municipal agencies coming to the university and dealing with students, they have created their own police department. And we deal with mental health. We deal with some students who are under 18 sometimes, and it's a different level of service. And fortunately for the police department, a good majority of the people here are good people, and we don't have to deal with, negative people on a consistent basis like the bigger agencies. So we're student focused. We try our best to go that extra mile when dealing with our students and staff and faculty. So it is a huge university, and we do need our own police department just to focus on our staff, students, and faculty.
And just to echo some of what Corporal King shared, so also our police department is trained with working specifically with university students. And so there's a lot of good training that our police department offers and has that assists our campus community. So we're really grateful for our campus partners. All right. So Lisa, I'm wondering if there's any questions that have come through the chat so far about I-20s and visa immigration documents, and any reminders that you want to share with some of our students.
Yeah, hi everyone. This is Lisa Swid from ISPO. A few questions have come through about making amendments to your I-20. So if you need to do that, you can always log into iportal.ucsd.edu and submit an amendment request if you need to adjust the start date or change any biographical information on your document. I see there's a question asking if it's possible to do your visa interview online. So any questions about getting your visa interview scheduled or doing it online, you'll need to contact your local consulate or embassy. I know that there's a lot of students who are having difficulties scheduling an appointment at this time. The best advice I can give is to try to contact your consulate directly, but make sure that you submit your I-20 request if you have not done so already, so that you can actually go ahead and make your appointment if available. Yeah, I think I'm not seeing any other questions right now, but I know I came in a little bit late. Do you see any other questions, Grace, that are specific?
Not about the visa, but I do want to highlight just a few things. I'm seeing some questions come in about the Grad Pals program, and I'm so excited to see some good interest there. So I went ahead and I shared the links for those different programs in the chat, so you can go ahead and access them. A little bit of information. So right now we are in our spring quarter, our spring term at UC San Diego. So we are recruiting students for the program, both our current students who will serve as mentors, as well as our incoming students who will serve as mentees. So that will occur over the spring quarter. And our spring quarter does go into June of 2021. And then probably at the end of June, that's when we'll be matching our students. And so we'll be matching both for the Grad Pals program as well as for the GAP Mentee or the GAP program. So we encourage you to, if you filled it out, we have your information. We're very excited to have you be a part of the program, and you should hear more information about next steps in June, most likely late June, because that will be then the beginning of our summer at UC San Diego.
All right, can I step in and
please do
address something? So I see in the chat there are a lot of questions about safety on campus, crime rates, and getting different text messages and emails regarding different events that have happened on campus. I know most of you are international right now, and I know you probably see a lot of things on the news, but one good thing about UCSD, we are in a better neighborhood of La Jolla. Of course, I can't guarantee anything, but it is a pretty safe environment on this campus. We do have, at the police department, we do have different services that assist with making people comfortable around campus. We do have escorts and escort service where our student workers or our civilian staff, they will walk you from one place to another. From sunset to sunrise, they provide those services. If you are a little bit nervous about walking alone somewhere, and 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning, they can assist with that. But it's a safe campus. I really want to say it's 100% guaranteed. I can't do that, but we do have our own police department here that will focus on things to better assist with everyone being comfort coming onto campus.
Thanks so much, Corporal King. Yes, and any other questions? Giancarlos, I'm seeing a few questions, and you might have already highlighted this, so please feel free to maybe reiterate or say or refer back, but about like insurance and on-campus insurance, and can you provide a little bit more clarity regarding some of those pieces?
Sure. Yes, thank you, Grace. And I think that I also saw that there were, sort of some questions or concerns about mandatory insurance versus non-mandatory, I suppose, and what comes with your tuition. I want to say that the coverage that's provided as part of paying for being a student at UCSD is for health insurance, which you can opt out of if you get other health insurance. But yes, you have to have health insurance through UCSD. It's called SHIP, Student Health Insurance. Again, you can get it elsewhere, but it obviously is easiest to get the on-campus health, the healthcare provided by the university. In terms of renter's insurance, if you're going to live on or off campus, again, I always recommend it. It's in case of loss or theft or damage, so you can get personal property coverage and other types of coverage. They're not mandatory, although if you live off campus, some landlords are going to require it. And as I said before, just get the best that you can afford with the most coverage. In terms of, I think there was a great question about where to look for insurance or how to consider your options. Unfortunately, I don't have a great recommendation other than that one good nonprofit resource that I will occasionally utilize is Consumer Reports. So if you go to consumerreports.org, they have they have guides about types of insurance and what are the best sort of rated types of insurance in terms of customer satisfaction, that sort of thing. You're obviously going to want to get information that's specific to the state of California. But yeah, I'd suggest that maybe you check out that. Yeah, unfortunately, I don't have a particular insurance company that I'd recommend, but yeah, if you do a little research, and certainly please don't hesitate to contact our office to make sure that it's real. That's an option.
This is Shauna from Grad Division. So I just wanted to mention, so Grace specifically stated the webinars that are upcoming, but we actually have a previous webinar that we recorded that talks about health insurance, and they talk about the process of waiving the UC San Diego health insurance if you have a health insurance with another company. And so I can put the link to the webinars again in the chat, but we have been recording the whole series. And so I did just want to mention that it is available now, and there is more or additional information in that session as well.
Oh, sorry about that.
Go ahead.
All right, so we are approaching the end of our time together today, but I did just want to highlight one last question before we close. So I see a question in the chat that is asking about Asian hate still happening in the United States and in San Diego, and inquiring about the safety for Asian and Asian identifying students to live on campus. So I do want to recognize that there has been a rise specifically in violence against our Asian and Pacific Islander identifying community, and UC San Diego is aware of this. And so many of the campus partners you see here today are working together to, one, address the reality of the situation we find ourselves in, as well as provide forums to make sure that our students feel supported and feel that they have access to that safety. And so I'll go ahead and put something in the chat regarding resources if you're experiencing Asian hate that the campus has put together. But please know that you could reach out to any one of us listed here, and specifically the International Students and Programs Office to get connected with resources to support, to make sure that you feel safe and feel that you can thrive here at UC San Diego as a valued part of our community. So thank you so much. That is the end of our time today. But we really appreciate you being here. And like I said, we do have just a few. We've already had a lot of different pre-arrival webinars today or this season that you can reference. And then we have just a few more that we'll close out the season with. So thank you so much for coming, and have a great rest of your day, everyone.